The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to use the free iPad app MedRemote with WinRx for paperless vaccination to increase the efficiency of doing vaccinations. To start, I'll click on the Turn eVaccine On button. You are about to turn MedRemote on. Do you wish to continue? I'll click Yes. Next, I'll click on the Appointments button. In the Appointment Scheduler, we can see that in this case, there are already 3 vaccination appointments scheduled. To verify that an appointment is a vaccination appointment, I can click on the patient's name and see that in the notes field, the word vaccination occurs. To export these appointments to MedRemote, I'll click on Export Vaccine Appointments. 3 appointments exported. At this point, I could also click on Print Day Sheet to have a printed record of the appointments. With MedRemote turned on, I can also export a vaccination appointment to MedRemote simply by filling a script for a vaccine. To see how this works, I'll select a new patient and fill a script for a shingles vaccine for this patient. Before filling the script, I note that the walk-in button says walk-in. This is the default option and is what I'm going to use in this case. I'll click Enter to fill the script. We see that the script has been filled, and at this point, we can use MedRemote to verify when the vaccinations have been completed. The first step in using the MedRemote iPad app is to download the app from the Apple App Store. When the app is downloaded and run, you'll be presented with a screen asking for the pharmacy IP address. Here I'm going to enter in the local IP address of the server on which the program IMR server is running. In general, this will be a local IP address if the iPad is being used within the pharmacy. If the iPad is being used outside the pharmacy, it will be necessary to enter an external IP address here, which can be obtained from a website such as whatismyip.com. When I connect, I receive a message saying connected to pharmacy, and I can see the exported list of vaccination appointments. The first step is to click on User ID and enter the ID of the employee doing the vaccination. After I enter the user ID, a green text field appears which says, click here and scan patient ID card, select patient from list, or select Get Consent for manual entry. These are the 3 ways of entering patient information into MedRemote. If I click on Get Consent, I can see that I'm brought to a new screen in which there is no patient information and it has to be entered manually. Now I'll show a brief video showing how to scan patient information from a driver's license into MedRemote. In this video, a Bluetooth barcode scanner is used. After the scanner is connected to the iPad, it is used to scan the barcode underneath the PHN on the back of a BC driver's license to enter the patient information. For the rest of this video, I'm going to process vaccinations using the patient list. To do this, I'll click on one of the patient's names. When I do, their patient information is automatically imported into the vaccination consent form. I'll select the vaccine, in this case COVID, authorized by client. And because this is a COVID vaccination, I'll also fill out a COVID screening form by clicking on the COVID screening button. This screening form has a number of questions, some requiring comments, some requiring yes/no answers. I'll simply leave this blank for this example and click Done. Next, I'll click on the verbal consent button. I'll leave the comments fields blank. However, I'll select left arm as the site of the COVID vaccination, and then I'll click Complete. I could also click Hold if I expect there to be changes to this information later. In this example, I'll click Complete. After clicking Complete, the number of COVID screening forms that have been completed is counted by the COVID button, and likewise, the number of vaccinations that have been completed is indicated by the Completed button. Next, I'll do a flu vaccination. I'll select patient John Smith. For this vaccine, I'll select AgriFlu Vaccine Private. In WinRx, this vaccine would have a non-zero cost. Again, I'll say authorized by client. I'll click on verbal consent. I'll select right arm as the site. In this case, I receive a warning message saying, COVID-19 screening not processed with this injection, eligibility for publicly paid for flu vaccination not processed with this injection. This is okay because this is a privately paid for flu vaccination, so I'll click Complete. Now I see there are 2 completed vaccinations. Next, I'll do another flu vaccination, this time for patient Tom Farside. For vaccine, I'll select AgriFlu Vaccine Public. In WinRx, this drug would have a zero cost. Authorized by client. In this case, I can click on the flu eligibility button to provide a reason why this flu vaccination has public coverage. In this case, I'll select healthcare worker and then click Done. I'll then click on the verbal consent button. I'll select left arm as the site. In the comments field, I can see it says healthcare worker. This is fine. I'll click Complete. And finally, for the 4th patient, I'll do a shingles vaccine. Clicking on the patient's name, vaccine, select a shingles vaccine, click on verbal consent, select right arm as the site. Again, I see the warning message, this is fine, and I'll click Complete. We can now see that the main page of MedRemote shows 4 completed vaccinations, 1 completed COVID screening form. To send these vaccinations to the pharmacy for processing in WinRx, I can click on the Completed button. I see the list of completed vaccinations, and then I can click Send. Send to pharmacy, click on OK. 4 vaccinations sent to pharmacy, 1 COVID screening sent to pharmacy. So at this point, we're ready to process the vaccinations in WinRx. Back in WinRx, we need to process the vaccination sent from MedRemote to generate vaccination documentation and vaccine histories for each of the patients. To do this, click on the ERX Transactions button. If I do this, I see the 4 vaccinations completed in MedRemote. I'll begin by processing the first vaccination in the list by pressing F10. When dispensing any vaccine product that won't be administered at the pharmacy, use intervention code IM. This intervention code doesn't need to be included if the person doing the vaccinations is an employee of the pharmacy. As we can see, the patient's information is automatically filled into the script. I'll press Enter to fill the script. COVID vaccine done. Next, we'll do the flu vaccination for patient John Smith. I'll press F10 to process. Again, I'll fill the script. Next, the public flu vaccine. F10 to process. And finally, the shingles vaccine. In this case, because the script has already been filled, we simply get a message saying vaccination consent record generated for RX number 940918. I can now look at the vaccination documentation generated by WinRx by going to the patient's profile. Attached to the patient profile itself is a COVID screening form. I can view this by clicking on the Documents button on the patient profile and opening the COVID screening form in PDF Viewer. To look at the consent for injection form, I go to the patient's RX history, select the COVID vaccine, and look at the documents attached to the RX itself. Opening the verbal consent for injection in PDF Viewer, there's the information. If I then go to the patient's electronic medical records by clicking on the EMR button in their patient profile, and then click on the Vaccines button, I can see that a COVID-19 vaccine has been added. Going to a different patient's profile, this is for the flu vaccination with public coverage. If I look at the consent for injection associated with this RX, I can see in that the other notes field it says healthcare worker, indicating the reason why this flu vaccination has public coverage. In the most recent version of WinRx, for patients who receive a vaccination outside the pharmacy, an electronic verification that the patient has received their vaccination can be sent from WinRx via text or email. To enable sending of notifications, I'll click on System and then Vaccine Text/Email Notification. When I do, I should specify a message to send the patient. Here I'll add a new preset message, which I'll call Flu Vaccination Notification. Message will be, this notification is to verify that patient has received their flu vaccination. Then I'll click Save to save the message. And I'll select this message. I'll also click Send Text. In this case, I'll just send a text notification and then save settings. F10 to update system information. With notifications enabled, we now see that under Settings, the text field Turn Vaccine Notify Off appears. To verify that a text notification is sent when a script is filled, I'll now click on ERX Transactions and process a transaction from MedRemote for a flu vaccination. Filling the script. I can see that the Rx is created, and on the patient's phone, a text message is received.